The story of J.P. Morgan is one of immense wealth, power, and influence. As the owner of the first billion-dollar company, he dominated the most profitable industries in the country. The economy of the United States quite literally depended on the actions of J.P. Morgan, who had the power to save a company from collapse or doom it to bankruptcy with a simple word or stroke of a pen. While some hated him, others admired him, and there will never be another man quite like J.P. Morgan. John Pierpont Morgan was born in Connecticut in 1837 into a wealthy family. Despite his privileged upbringing, his childhood was bleak due to his poor health. He was often confined indoors due to illnesses such as scarlet fever, coughing fits, migraines, and seizures. He spent much of his time studying financial statements and reading books. At one point, he was sent to live on an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean by himself to recover from rheumatic fever. In 1857, at the age of 19, John entered the workforce and worked for his father's London-based banking firm, George Peabody and Company. His job involved writing reports on the financial and political developments in America. However, his father feared that he was too rash and hot-tempered to become a successful financier and needed to learn restraint and responsibility. In 1861, John left the firm to start his own company, which acted as an agent for his father's bank. That same year, John married his first love, Amelia Sturgis. However, she died just 4 months after their wedding due to tuberculosis. John was devastated and threw himself into his work more than ever. During this time, the American Civil War broke out, and John profited immensely from it. He financed the purchase of 5,000 surplus Hall carbine rifles from the government for $3.50 each, which were then sold back to the government for $1.22 each, resulting in a significant profit. In 1871, John teamed up with Anthony Drexel to found the Drexel Morgan & Company private merchant banking house, which later became J.P. Morgan & Company. This firm would be the one that John would manage for the rest of his life, serving as the precursor to J.P. Morgan Chase, the modern banking titan. Despite his immense success, John faced many controversies during his career, including accusations of war profiteering. Morgan was a central figure in many of the most important transactions of the Industrial Revolution. He was an active investor in railroads, reorganizing the Albany and Susquehanna, 1869, the New York Central, 1885, the Philadelphia and Reading, 1886, and the Chesapeake and Ohio, 1888. In 1892, Morgan arranged the merger of Edison General Electric and Thomson Houston Electric, leading to the creation of General Electric. In 1901, he led the consolidation of Carnegie Steel Company with several other similar concerns, creating history's first billion-dollar corporation in U.S. steel. When a financial panic gripped Wall Street in October 1907, Morgan took charge, convincing New York bankers and businessmen to pledge their own assets to provide liquidity to the faltering financial system. Thanks to his intervention, the crisis was averted, and by November, financial markets returned to relative stability. Morgan was among the most maligned of the so-called robber barons. He is remembered as a beefy, red-faced bully, fierce and lonely, possessed of small ideas and consumed by enormous greed. All of this is deeply unfair to Morgan. Recent biographers, most notably Gene Strauss, have looked at Morgan with fresh eyes, finding a much more subtle and interesting character than his caricature would allow. He was a genuine polymath, fluent in French and German, steeped in literature and the arts, whose aptitude for mathematics prompted one of his professors at the University of Göttingen to encourage him to consider an academic appointment. He was remarkably generous and devoted his considerable wealth and energy to a few favored causes. At the turn of the century, Morgan was America's greatest patron of the fine arts. He began collecting art while touring Rome, not long after finishing at Göttingen at the age of 19. It was the start of a lifelong love affair. He was the driving force behind the rise of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, serving as president and donating extensively from his personal acquisitions. Morgan was a man of truly Catholic charitable interests. In addition to his lifelong engagement with the arts, he was deeply interested in the natural sciences. A trustee of the American Museum of Natural History for 44 years, Morgan served on the board from the museum's opening in 1869 until his death in 1913. He was often the museum's lead donor, frequently giving under condition of anonymity, and he served at various times as vice president, treasurer, and finance committee chairman. Third among Morgan's great philanthropic interests was the Episcopal Church. Throughout his working life, he set aside 3 weeks every third year to meet with Episcopalian bishops and discuss theology. He served as treasurer and senior warden at St. George's Episcopal Church. In 1886, he was appointed to a committee responsible for revising the Book of Common Prayer, which, writes Strauss, he knew practically by heart. He quietly underwrote the salaries of scores of Manhattan clergymen and contributed heavily, $500,000 in 1892 alone, to the construction of Manhattan's, as yet unfinished, Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Morgan was also a strong advocate for the gold standard and played a key role in shaping American monetary policy during his lifetime. He believed that a strong currency was essential to economic stability and worked to ensure that the United States maintained a gold-backed currency. In summary, J.P. Morgan was a legendary figure who dominated the most profitable industries in the country and had the power to save or doom companies with a single word or stroke of a pen. He overcame many challenges in his life, including poor health, personal tragedy, and public scrutiny, to become one of the most influential figures in American history.